Hey everybody, how's it going? So today we're going to be working on an A1706 Touchbar Macbook Pro. The customer says its laptop's not turning on. No power, just completely dead. Was working fine the day before. No water damage. Well, we'll be the judge of that now, won't we? So let's open this thing up and see if this customer is telling the truth. So I will open this up and see what it looks like on the inside. And then I'll show you. And then maybe you can help me fix it. Runs a business with like 10 people working for him and doesn't own a car. How does that make me poor? Oh my God. My friend has a car and I can beat him to work on a regular basis. I could beat him to work without even trying. My friend, again, the Dr. Evil Genius, I shit you not, I was able to beat him to work by about 19 seconds, and we live in the same area. I was able to beat him by about 19 seconds, and that was when I had an issue with my cassette where it wasn't aligned right, so I couldn't use max torque. So I was limited in the amount of torque that I could use on the bike, which is already a 1,000 to 3,000 watt device compared to a fucking car, and I was still able to beat him. No, it's not poor Lewis for not having a car. It's poor the rest of these fucks that are stuck waiting in traffic all day. Hell, having a car is a freaking nightmare. It's awful. It's I don't know. I would probably lose my mind waiting in New York traffic every single day. I would genuinely lose my shit. Because when I pass these people and I see, like, I get to the front of the line and I see that there's someone like drunkenly falling asleep at the wheel or having an argument with someone, or who just doesn't notice that the light has changed and they have their headphones on so they can't even hear the people honking at them. Like, I am not stuck. The people that are in cars because they need to ride around in a 3,000-pound tank. See, transporting a 100-pound person should not require a 3,000-pound tank. Like it's a waste of energy, and it's also kind of a waste of space. It's like there are times when that's needed, and by all means, sure. But most of the trips that people make in New York, they don't require that you be transported in a 3,000-pound tank. It's inefficient, and it's not even inefficient from the like save the climate, planet, all that shit. That's one way to look at it. It's just fundamentally inefficient in that if there is something blocking me ahead, I wish to be able to do this. But if you're driving in something that's this wide and you have something in front of you, you can't really do that. And I can. And I can see how pissed off and aggravated all the drivers are. And I'm just laughing at them as I'm like, yep, yeah, I'm good. I don't care that it's rush hour traffic. I'm getting to work in 20 minutes. I don't care. I could be leaving the store at 4:45 before COVID. And when I lived in the old store where I was closer, I could get home in 11, 12 minutes. Now it takes me about 20 because I'm a little further away. But still, you get the idea. Poor these fucks that have to deal with cars. It's horrible. I think there's going to be a big cultural backlash against that. Like anybody that wants to speak about different modern forms of transportation, and like almost everything now is political and culture war shit and all that crap. But I don't try to get at people from the climate. How dare you? Because even if they make cogent arguments, it just gets people pissed off. I just try to say, listen, man. I get to work. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm paying a lot less money than you, and I'm sitting in a lot less traffic. So you want to sit in traffic for 45 minutes, you be my guest. I'm going to get to work in 15 minutes, no matter what's on the road. So that's really where I make my sales pitch. Same thing with veganism. I'm not going to go up to someone and say, "How dare you kill them, those animals?" What I do is I just say, "This is the best burrito in the world with the best sauce in the world. Try this out. By the way, it's vegetarian." That's the kind of the way you convince people, not by shaming them and beating them. It's just, this is a different way of doing things. And by the way, I save about 5 hours a week and not waiting in traffic. What do you think? It's like, oh, maybe I'll try that. All right. So on this one, who fried the people best this time? So this is there's a common place on all this board that always winds up getting liquid on it. And in this one, I don't see liquid there. I see dust. So I'm going to that first. That typically takes away pp3v3_g3 hot. So before I even take my multimeter out, I want to see if this cap under here is shorted. It always is, every single time. This is in the wiki. This is a very common one that you should all be familiar with by now because you are going to see it every day. And as you can see, it is hiding under there exactly as expected. So pp3v3_g3 hot is a required power rail because that power rail powers the USB-C MUX chip, which is what you see over here, the CD3215, this chip. And that chip needs its pp3v3 G3 hot power rail to work. Now, if this cap shorts the ground, then it's going to stop everything from working because you're not going to have a charger working. And that cap always dies. I don't know why. The water or always goes there, even if it doesn't go anywhere else in the machine. But it is a very, very common issue, and you should know to look for this. Your staff should know to look for this. This should be a very common one. So I'm just going to bend the shield back a little bit, like so, because I don't feel like, I don't want to solder without being able to see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to bend the shield. I'm probably triggering somebody right now really hard because I'm bending that shield, but oh well. What are you going to do? Yes, I'm cutting into your little precious MacBook. Deal with it. Now this is a particularly difficult area to work in because I can't really use hot air. Because remember, you have to remember that there is an underfilled chip right over there. And if I use hot air over here to remove this, or to solder a new one in, I'm likely going to wind up screwing up the CD3215 and having to reball it or replace it, which means removing all the underfill. And that's something that we want to avoid doing because that's a nightmare. That's not fun. Again, it's doable. You should have the skill to do it, but just because you have the skill to do something doesn't mean you should actually, seek to do it. You want to try to avoid it, doing those things. So I'm going to clear out some of this. Some of that is dirt, some of that is underfill. I'm just going to clear that out so that I have space to solder in. Remember, solder with 2 Ds. There's no L in solder. Don't listen to British and Australian people. They're lying to you. They're lying to you about everything. Yeah, this is pretty nasty. But this is the inside of your standard MacBook. Yeah, that's pretty nasty. Okay. It's kind of hard to tell. Is this was the moisture inside of the dust, or did water actually get in here, or was it just moist dust that got in there? Either way, that's pretty disgusting. Now, it's going to be fairly difficult to find a way to get in there. Some flux. Because nothing is actually going to want to fit in there. I could get in there if I remove that capacitor a lot easier. Because my iron will touch the pad, but it's going to touch it barely. It's barely going to touch the pad, so I'm not really going to get a lot of heat transfer there. Now I'm going to take another capacitor from another board. That still has its capacitor. And we're going to put it right over there. I might use a little bit of hot air to get in there. I don't have the angle to be able to get in there with my hot tweezers. Someone says, I wish I had a soldering kit like Lewis has. The solder kits rock. It's just it's a basic micro pencil iron. There should be a link in the description down below. And my hot air station is the A1706 that I use. Actually, this is the Quick 861. The other guys use the A1706, or I use the A1706 at the other desk when I am showing a new employee something. You can find all that stuff at store.rossmangroup.com, the hot air station. Alright, so now I got to figure out how to get this damn cap in there. That's not going to want to fit. That may... are you the right one? I believe I may be getting trolled. Yeah, I got the wrong one. That's too big. Alright. You know what? I may cheat and use hot air here. I might just cheat and use some hot air. But I'm going to lower the temperature and I'm going to cover my CD3215 with a piece of metal. I'm also going to cover my NAND chip over there with a piece of metal. This will work as kind of a heat sink. Ask Dan at rossmangroup.com, the backwoods engineer. Not sure. It may be that we're out of stock of the scratch and dents, which is a good thing. I don't want to have a bunch of damaged stuff, but all right. Now we're going to cool this off really quickly. Utilizing rapid cool technology, I just touched myself with one of the tweezers I was using as a heatsink. My God, that burns. Ow. Owie test. Ow. 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 That's some hot tweezers right there. That's what we call hot tweezers. I wasn't even trying to give myself an owie test there, and I got myself an owie test. Ow. Ow. So I turned my hot air station from 500 degrees down to 300 degrees. And since the solder on all the chips in the motherboard is lead-free, and my solder was leaded, that ensures that as long as I timed it right and I didn't put too much extra time there, that it was going to melt my joint into place, my component into place, before it actually melted anything underneath the chip itself, which is a good thing. Now again, if you leave it there too long, then you will melt the balls underneath the underfilled chip and have to take the chip off and reball it, which is a nightmare, and you don't want to do that. Which is why I'm not like staying there for a long time. As the moment I see that I have even the tiniest bit of zinc, the moment I see zip, that's it. I'm not staying there and like waiting for the component to move back and forth like I would with a BGA. That's not important to me. What's important to me there is not the 100% perfect placement of it. The moment it's in place and it's moved, I'm good. I don't need to sit there and wait for it to settle. What I want is to get that capacitor in place without heating the stuff under it or above it. So I have my little tweezer in place as a heatsink. At the end, because I needed to get the iron a little bit closer, I moved that away, and when I pointed the hot air at this way, I removed the tweezer over here so I could get it in there, and I did it really quickly. It settled in place, and it was good. So now we're going to see if we have any change in behavior. All right, 20 volts, 700 milliamps. Now what I'm curious to see is if it boots. I'd like to see it boot. The way I would see it boot is I have to move it so that I can show the screen on the camera, but I got to do that without unplugging anything. As you can see, it sees the operating system and is booting into the operating system. This is important because remember what I was heating, that area that I was heating is right above the NAND chip, which is the chip that contains your data for the solid state drive. So if I had done anything, if I had overheated anything over there, what you would have seen is a question mark folder because the data, as in the operating system, would not be there. And that is Clearly not the case, because it is now booting up, which is great. It's lovely. It's booting. It's going to boot a little slow because I don't have the battery or the trackpad or any of the sensors plugged in. So it's gonna clock itself down, but it is booting, which means that we did our job. Let me show you on Flex Board View what that cap was for. And just keep this in mind, because that's an area that people often neglect to check, because it's hidden underneath that shield. And since it's hidden underneath that shield, you know, it's one of those things where it's out of sight, out of mind. And if it's out of sight, it's not just out of sight and out of mind, it's also out of wallet, because if you don't find it, you're never going to fix it. You need to find it and see it in order to fix it. So I'm going to load this up on this schematic in the board view on the screen, and let's get this done. So let's get Paul Daniels' software to show up. Here we go. That's not showing up the way I would expect it to, but it's not the way it showed up last time. Paul Daniels. Oh, wait a second. Here we go. That's my fault. My bad. I always yell at Paul when I fuck something up. It's not fair. There we go. All right. Can I blame Paul Daniels for NVIDIA's shitty drivers? If I have my chat window over the schematic, it does that. If I minimize my chat window, it doesn't do that. It was cute back in 2002 when my GeForce 440 MX Go and my Dell Inspiron 8200 didn't work perfectly in Linux. Fine. It was 2002. Then, like, you know, in 2011 and 12 and 13 and 14, when it didn't work with NVIDIA cards, okay, fine. Linux is... It's 2020. NVIDIA, come on, just get it together. This is a $900 graphics card. Surely you've made enough money that you could put together a Linux driver that doesn't suck. So let's go over the cap that we replaced. So we go over here and hit the PDF button in Paul Daniels' software. And as you can see, CB300 is a cap to ground on PP3v3_G3 hot. PP3v3_G3 hot is going to go here, voltage in of the CD3215. CD3215 is, as it says over here, a USB-C port controller. This chip is going to communicate with the charger and ask for 20 volts rather than 5 volts. Remember, a USB-C charger can put out 5 volts, for a phone, it could put out 9 volts for fast charging a phone, or it could put out 20 volts for charging a laptop. And it needs to negotiate the proper amount of power. And if this chip doesn't come on, it's not going to do that. And for this chip to come on, it does need its power. Now, you could see over here, if I check out USB CCA 1 and 2, you can see where it actually speaks to the charge port directly. So this is... Whoa. Oh, you're not showing this board view, are you? Paul Daniels? No, me. I am. Okay, so you didn't see me hit the PDF button. Anyway, so I hit the PDF button here to show the capacitor. This is a different board view was showing. I blame Paul Daniels for my mistake. He's probably used to that by now. I'm sorry, Paul. If I move over here, and this is the CD3215. This is the USB-C MUX. You can see that it goes directly to where the charge port plugs into the computer. That is over here. Also, you could see that it finally finished booting, which means that the NAND is not damaged. So this is the charge port itself. And the CD3215 is going to communicate with the charger and ask for its full 20 volts, but it needs to be powered to do that, and PP3v3G3 hot is the power rail that it needs, and that was shorted to ground because this cap over here got corroded. This is a very, very common corrode cap, and again, I keep doing videos on this to hammer it home because there's a lot of people that miss that little area, and missing that little area is going to cost your customer, you know, a lot of money. It's going to cost you a lot of money and miss revenue, and it's right there. So make sure that you check that area if you have a PP3v3_G3 hot short. It may even be difficult to see on a thermal camera because you have that overarching, that metal shield that is right by the NAND, which is right under the cap, and typically the metal shields trick the thermal camera, and it becomes bad. So that's about it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now. By the way, the wiki is now been upgraded. It features 3 anti-spam plugins that I recently installed so that my site is not going to be filled with a bunch of fucking steroid, drug, hooker, gambling documents anymore. I am continuing to add to this wiki here. I'm going to continue putting work into it. You can just click troubleshooting guides. I have a visual inspection guide. If, let's say, you're having a problem with this particular model computer, you can just go here. You can click that model computer, and it gives you a detailed list of all the things that can go wrong. It'll even tell you, if, let's say, charger is stuck at 5 volts instead of 20 volts, it will tell you corroded LDO cap for this. I'm actually going to update that right now to say CB300. I believe it does say CB300 over here. Yeah, PB333 shorted to ground, CB300 corroded, but you can't see it. Look closely. I'm putting all of my solutions here. So all the stuff that is already in my head or my staff's head, I don't want it to just remain there. I want it to be available for as many people to see as humanly possible so that more people can get involved in the repair industry, more people can save Apple customers money, and more people can kind of take part in this hobby that I kind of enjoy again. So that's it for today, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.